I saw a good comparison that he's like half artist, half warrior. I think that's a good way to describe him because he is quite creative when he gets on the ball, but he's still a warrior off it. And that's the archetype of player we really seem to be going for. Players who work hard, who still create with the ball, who like I think with Cruz, Modric, or even the Spanish football archetype for a decade, we started seeing technical players as these players who have to dominate without running, but that doesn't have to be the case. Bellingham is showing us you can run a lot and still dominate. It's just cool because again, I'm really used to the technical players dominating without defending, without putting in that gritty work. I think Cruz embodies this really well. He's not someone who has ever had to make things look hard. He's always made it look easy. Bellingham, it's not like elegant all the time. I think that's what's cool about Bellingham's dominance, but it's very industrious. It's very grifty. I think football is moving in this direction too. A lot of dominant players, they can win the duel and they can still go and play the Trivela pass in the final third. It's just a different tier of player. I think players that could make it before with just Bellingham's skill on one side of the ball, now you need both. Our other players are like this too. You have Chouameni, who's like really dominant on the ball, and he contributes in other phases. Camavinga is very good carrying the ball. Fede as well, as we've talked about, is good on and off the ball. Bellingham's just the most extreme because like his Trivela assist is not something you would expect from someone who's also a hardworking defender. And he's not a winger. He carries the ball really fast for someone who's not a winger, but he's not a winger either. So it's not like he's going to take it past 3-4 defenders as a wide outlet, but he offers more of that. It's a weird archetype. We haven't seen this before. I can't think of too many like him.
If I had to like build a prototypical figure to like explain who is the perfect modern footballer, it's kind of him, man. Like I don't for this day and age, what is required to succeed as a footballer and also take that to another level to ascension of superstardom, he's it. Like he's got everything. He's got the complete package. It's so hard to find such a well-rounded footballer like him. Like we have the two-way combative midfielders in our team, but none of them can score and create quite the way Jude can. Like what is his weakness? Serious question. He's got an aerial game. He's got playmaking. He's got work rate, defense. He has a natural understanding of the game and positional play. He's selfless. I like what is his weakness?
The only thing I'd say is he's just more, and I'm not sure if you can transcend his weakness. If you were to nitpick though, he doesn't control the game the way Pedri does. He's more a De Bruyne, Zidane mold of midfielder, which I think Pedri is unique though because he's that very rare midfielder who's very good creating in the box, who also slows the game down around him, but Pedri is just one of one. Maybe Iniesta did that. And if you look at all the midfielders who could create like Jude, none of them could necessarily control games. I would just say that's the only thing you could argue. Like there are times when he's dribbling when you would think maybe Iniesta or Pedri would slow the game down when he chooses to be more aggressive with it. And that's something maybe he gets better at over the course of his career. I think though he's definitely missing that control element that you could say Modric has. I don't know. I'm not sure on that one. Do you think he's just not the archetype of midfielder who needs to slow games down?
The thing is, like, I suppose, like, if you put it that way, his weakness would be like he doesn't have the passing ability of Toni Kroos, for example. I would say like his passing is more like Kevin De Bruyne, like someone who's going to attempt a high volume of difficult passes. And for that reason, the passing accuracy will not be as high. Like KDB's passing stats are generally pretty, like his passing accuracy is pretty low for that reason. But like, do you consider that as a weakness, or it's just someone who just slings so many vertical passes, high degree of difficulty, that naturally it's just going to be, it's not going to be like a controlled or slower tempo player like a Xavi or a Cruz who will have a different kind of passing accuracy. I suppose if you put it that way, it's a weakness, but Like it's not. It's also not that bad either. Like it's not. That's why I'm struggling to find a weakness. I think Pedri is a brilliant player. I don't want to discredit him. I think he's probably not as great of a playmaker as Jude, and probably is not as great defensively either. So, anyways, I guess the point is like even if he does have weaknesses, which every footballer ultimately does, it's not that glaring to me.
Yeah, no, De Bruyne is a perfect comp. He's a perfect comp. He can't slow the game down, but I'm not even sure if you qualify that as a weakness. And yeah, that's why you could say there's no weakness if you go beyond that. It's really how much can you create and how little can you give the ball away becomes the question there. You start comparing him to more wingers. But yeah, it is pretty close to perfect, and it's just not as stylistically stunning, maybe as even De Bruyne. I mean, at points it is, but
Subjective.
he's very much a machine. He's a machine, Jude. He's a modern machine. Is Di Stefano a good comparison?
Probably.
It's not bad, just in the sense that he could do everything. Di Stefano was probably more well-rounded in that Di Stefano was also dropping in our own box to clear headers. Like Bellingham will never do that unless it's a set piece or some shit, but Di Stefano is probably the most unique player in football history for that reason. But what the thing is, like, just listen to us what we're saying right now. Like we're trying to find weaknesses, and we're asking if Di Stefano is a good comparison. That kind of tells you what kind of player we have on our hands here. And I've fallen in the trap many times before of getting ahead of myself or overhyping a player. But this one is really hard to kind of downplay. He's a special player, and said so many times in the past before we signed him that he would be a luxury signing because we have so many great midfielders, and I've totally changed my opinion on that now that I've seen him play. For Real Madrid, it's like this guy I can't imagine passing up on him, no matter how many midfielders we had. All right, Wuska, does that answer your question?
Yeah, it answers the question, and thanks a lot for your time. And yeah, here's to many more games from Jude.
Awesome. Thank you, man. It was great having you on the call. Stick around, hopefully, for the entire thing. Next up, we have Adi. Adi, are you there?
Hey, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. What's up?
Hey, I have a couple of questions. So the first one is about Rodrygo. He's been struggling a bit this season, and I personally feel that it's because he's still not acclimatized to the new system that we are playing, and he's the one who's expected to change the most amongst our forwards to suit the system. Like Vinny still gets to play on the left, like drift as much to the left as he can, while Rodrygo has to do a lot more. So do you feel if that is the reason, and like do you feel if he would ever fit into this system for it to work perfectly with him in it? Or do you feel we would have to revert back to a 4-3-3 or something of those lines for him to be back to his best? The reason I'm asking this question is because a friend of mine floated a theory of sorts where, Perez ends up selling Rodrygo this summer, ends up getting Mbappe, and I don't know. I don't really want that because because I personally feel we need a striker more than Mbappe, but that's a discussion for another time.
You guys want to jump in on this one?
Yeah, I can. If either of you don't have ideas, I've actually been thinking one of Rodrygo or Fede would be sold next summer for a while. Especially because Endrick is coming in anyways, and when you see Endrick is coming in, Mbappe or Haaland, let's say, is coming in, or some other forward. Vinicius is here. We just signed Arda Güler. Even if we get rid of Brahim or Kubo, we're gonna probably have one of them. That leaves room to sell someone. And Rodrygo's not scoring as much as a striker. He's not creating as much as a midfielder. He's essentially creating more than an attacking. He's like a very creative attacking midfielder, but he's not a winger and he's not a striker. So in that archetype of position he will never go beyond a 13th or 14th man at Real Madrid. So if he's okay with that, we can probably keep him. But there might be a moment when someone like Endrick plays more. We might try out Endrick more. And as you know, right now Joselu is better than Rodrygo. That's just something we have to confront very directly. Like if you want to play a full season at the top level, Joselu is going to be playing as many minutes as Rodrygo in important games. He might even be more valuable. So from that perspective, I think it's just better to accept that Rodrygo may never be a surefire start at Real Madrid. And the sooner I've accepted that now. He has to earn it, and earning it means like this last stretch he should have scored 5 to 8 goals, and he scored 1 since Vinicius left. So yeah, I wouldn't be surprised to see Rodrygo go, and I wouldn't be the most upset anymore either, honestly.
I think 5 to 8 is a bit exaggerated, Sid. I mean, his XG was like what 3, I think, for this 3 point something for the season. But I guess the thing is like the reality right now is I agree with you on some levels. Like Joselu right now, based on merit, should be on the field before him. Not a combination of based on merit and also because of what he brings as a presence and target in the box for Vinny and Jude to hit. I also think the question of like, will Rodrygo be sold next summer is like, we have to think about why we're asking this question now. We're like, what, 8, 9, 10 games into the season, including all competitions. We have no idea how Rodrygo will end the season, how he'll do by Christmas time. He may just put all these, maybe like a lot, these conversations will become a distant memory because he'll just find his scoring form and he'll get involved and he'll get a bunch of confidence and he'll be fine. But also like selling him now, like let's assume worst case scenario is the entire season he's not scoring. Selling him next summer then, with his value being that low, is something that won't be as easy to do. But also, like, I always said that if we sell Rodrygo, it's going to be more because he'll look around and realize that he is too good to be on the bench. And he's like, oh, well, you guys signed Mbappe and you signed this player and that player. And, like, it seems like you guys don't value what I do. I'll go somewhere else and start. The thing is, like, if he's playing like this and his production value on offense is this low, he's not going to be able to look around and have that leverage and say, okay, well, I'm going to go start somewhere, because he just won't be his value won't be high enough for him to demand that kind of thing. The question of, is Rodrygo a kind of a victim of the formation change, I think is not true, because Vinicius was missing a bunch of time this season already. So Rodrygo had his chance to play on the left quite a bit. Last night was actually pretty symmetrical with Vinny on the left and Rodrygo on the right. And he just wasn't as involved. But in other games, like, it's been Rodrygo on the left and Joselu kind of playing down the middle. And he's had plenty of opportunities to get on the ball, to dribble at players, to shoot. So I think the formation change is a bit of a cop-out for him. I think he's had some bad luck. I think he's also underperformed. It's a combination of those two. I don't want to like be too extreme about it and say he's done and he's finished. And I also don't want to absolve him of blame altogether either. I think probably the truth is somewhere in the middle. But I think it's a little bit too early to have these discussions about will he be sold. That's the way I see it.
I just think he's just a bit confused when he's playing. It's not because of the system, I don't think. It's just what he used to do last season, what he used to do the season before. He just seems like he's like, he doesn't know anymore what he was doing last season. He just seems confused when he has the ball, whether to do, like, you know, go past the player or just pass it back. It's like he's not making the right decisions, and it wasn't obviously what I was expecting from him this season, because I was really high on him from how he was playing towards the end of last season. And yeah, I mean, I think it is too early to have this conversation if he's going to be sold, because, well, it's like the 9th game, isn't it? I just think for him to make his case, he's going to have to do a lot more, and he's going to have a stretch of like 10 games where he scores a lot of goals and just, because the system's not going to change. Carlo Ancelotti has made that clear. He's not going to change it for Rodrygo if the team is winning. He will have to just do well enough, because this is, I don't even think the system is necessarily a problem for him. It's just,
I honestly
just
don't think the system is an issue for him. Like, I don't I think a lot of people use that as an excuse to also explain Vinicius when he was out of form earlier for a couple games. I don't think the system is an issue. If you look at what's happening, is they're getting the ball in the same zones they got it last year. They're fine in that regard. And I think one thing about Rodrygo is that people are just kind of yelling about the wrong things here. If we really break it down, what's the fundamental problem? It's that he's not scoring. That's it. If he was scoring, if he had scored 3-4 goals by now, I think people would have been fine with his performance. He's getting the ball into the box better than anyone in La Liga. The numbers back that up. No player in the entire league has been getting into the box with the ball at his feet and breaking lines as well as he did, as he has. The difference is he's just not scoring. And of course, this discussion is compounded because last night he was terrible. And so now we have that fresh in our minds to pile on top of it too. I think if we just zoom out a bit, we can appreciate the fact that he's actually doing well with the playmaking aspect of it and getting into the right zones. What we're critical of him is he's not scoring right now. And we just need more from him offensively. His goals need to shoot up. They really do. Because we can't win as many titles as we want, possibly any titles, if we're only getting goals from Bellingham and Vinicius here and there, and Joselu here and there. We need Rodrygo to score. I think that's the fundamental issue. Is that it's not that he's playing terribly.